if I'm in a dark place, I'm going, no, like God has authority over these types of things.
Mm-hmm.
This life that someone may find themselves in, asking like, God, is this what you have for me? Well, he probably has a lot more if you'll come under his authority.
When you think about the profound influence of the Bible on the world, the way that it has shaped our culture, whether you're a follower of Christ or not, it's probably a good idea that you know at least what it says. It's going to be about us taking and reading the Bible. All right.
What's up?
Welcome back, LJ.
It's good to be
to
back.
The Take and Read podcast. So excited to have you back.
Yeah, man.
So you are right now. You're in a bit of a break.
Yeah.
So here in our team, there's a lot of times of rest after a certain amount of years of serving and laboring. You're granted this biblical concept of a Sabbath, of a rest, and you're in that right now. So you get a few weeks away where you get a rest.
Yep.
What do you do to do that?
Like personally?
Yeah, like what does rest consist of? Because some people are not good at like vacation.
Oh, man.
They fill it up, it's detailed, and they end more tired than they began.
I think you're right. I think for us, the goal was like put a few things on the actual schedule, and then let's just see how everything else goes. And it worked out perfectly. So we went to Colorado, and we're outside of Colorado Springs, and so the weather's crazy. One day it's sunny, the next day it might be snowing. And so we had some loose plans, and it turned out to be good that they were loose because we had to move some stuff around.
Yeah.
But all of that was like, it was perfect to just hang out, not have a lot to do, be able to just sit outside, take it easy, run around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you like, okay, I've got this stack of books, I'm going to get after it? Or are you like, I'm not bringing a book because I'm not reading, I'm going to be playing?
Yeah. So I had one book that I wanted to read during my time off. And so working my way through that, almost finished with it. Outside of that, it's just trying to keep my time really wide open.
Yeah, buddy.
Started March Madness. I love basketball.
Yeah.
It's the perfect time for basketball fans. So enjoyed all of that. Still going on.
Yeah.
So that's been fun.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, man.
So when you enter, this is something I was thinking about.
Yeah.
One of the things we get into on this podcast is this idea of cadence and rhythms around reading the Bible.
Yep.
And I know for me, when I'm in my normal routine, that's when I tend to thrive in that area where, man, I've got the same thing happening day in, day out. And a part of that is dedicated and protected time in the Word. It's when I get out of that routine and I go into like a vacation or a trip or something where now I've got to be super intentional around that thing. How do you navigate those types of variations?
Yeah, I think one thing, maybe it's the way that I'm wired, and that's been a gift in time off, is I do a lot of my reading and study in the evening. And so when my day has not been packed with tasks, then it really feels like a long day in the best way. Like I just get to enjoy life. And so somewhere along the way, I've put the kids down, hanging out with my wife, and then I'll go sit down at a table or something and just kind of open up the Word and study, read a little bit. And so in that sense, time off has been a real gift in being able to just do that. Yeah. Now, like once I'm in the swing of things and my schedule gets busy, I've got to make it a point to carve out that time at the end of the day, or I'm too worn out.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was in college. I was trying to figure out what kind of guy am I? Am I a morning reader, evening? Every attempt to read at night, it ended in me falling asleep. And then I felt bad. I'm like, Lord, I'm so sorry. I'm not saying you're boring. It's just I'm really tired.
Yeah, man.
And I'd fall asleep. So
dude, I've tried the morning stuff, and like I've almost felt guilty for not being a morning person that gets up 2 hours before I have to leave the house and that stuff. That's just not me, man, and I've gotten to the place where I'm okay with that, and I feel like that's who God's created me to be.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went through a season where I didn't know if I was just going to be like a 10 a.m. guy because I wanted to be a morning guy, but our kids just woke up naturally super early. So it was this effort to try to get ahead of them every day, and it seemed so defeating. Like I could never get up before them.
Yeah.
So then I felt super guilty, but now they're entering teen years, so it's not a challenge
There we
anymore.
go.
They sleep in now.
That's
so
what's
we're in
up.
good shape. It's good to have you back. There are a lot of people that let me know that I need to have LJ on more consistently.
Hey, I'll take that, man.
And I'll tell you, it tends to be, and I'm sure they mean well, but it's not like, hey, he's got the greatest theological insight. It's usually, we could listen to his voice a lot more.
Yeah.
So what I'd love to do right now is, if we could just do a quick exercise, let's flex the pipes a little bit on that voice of yours, okay?
Oh, buddy.
Yeah, now, you used to be in radio, right?
I wanted to be in radio. So that was like in high school, I had my sight set on being a DJ at some point. That never came to fruition. However, while I was in college, I was a DJ at a skating rink.
Yeah.
And it was a good time. I was seriously LJ the DJ.
Oh, I love that. So I'm trying to think, what are some things that we could do right now for the folks tuning in or watching that they could take advantage of this, amazing voice that God has given you? So
Oh, my goodness.
are there's maybe some phrases that we could have like maybe right now you could record somebody's voicemail for them. So just give us like a generic voicemail response. And so if you're listening and you want to just kind of like find a way to record this section
Oh, man.
and use it as your voicemail, yeah, LG, are you cool with that?
It's cracking me up. It's put me on the spot. We'll give it a shot. You
Yeah.
never know. We'll see what happens. It's not going to be one of those long, annoying ones.
No. So
Yeah.
so someone's just called and it goes to voicemail and
Here we go.
yeah.
Hey, now, the person that you called is not able to answer the phone. If you'll leave a message, they'll kindly get back to you. Have a
Bam.
good day.
Oh, I messed it up. I
No, it's all good. I think
Okay.
the band will throw it.
Bam. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's one you could use. Let's say somebody has a speaker system at their front door. Like, I don't know, that's a thing now. People can, like, if there's packages delivered or
Oh,
something like that.
yeah.
So if you could real quick, just somebody has dropped off, either it's a package delivery or somebody kind of doing some solicitation, and somebody doesn't necessarily want to attend to the door at that moment. And they just need someone like you to communicate that, thank you, but not now.
Okay. So package or
So let's do package first.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody, you're just run of the mill. You got your UPS guy or whatever. He's come. He's dropped a package. You just want to let him, give him a shout out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. And drop the package.
Hey, yo, thanks for the package. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Okay, that's straightforward. I think if I worked in that industry, I'd be like, oh, thanks, man. I feel
Cool.
a connection.
Cool.
Now let's say it's a solicitor that you don't want to be belligerent, but you want them to know this is probably not a house that you're going to want to come back to, especially I'm not feeling it today.
Hey, we've all had that experience.
Yeah.
I've wanted to say some things that I shouldn't say. I probably won't let that come out right now.
Very good.
But I'd probably say something like, hey, I understand you got a job to do, but I'm not about that life.
Yeah, buddy.
Call it right there.
This last one. This is, you get one of those calls from, I don't know if it's India or wherever, but they want to talk to you or sell you something.
Yeah.
And they're just robo dialing. What do you say to them?
Can I tell you what I really do?
Yeah, please.
I have a Google Assistant on my phone that screens my calls for me.
Nice.
And so when it's one of those, I'll hit screen call, and live, it will send me text of what they're saying, and I can type in my response and it will speak it back.
Okay, so let's say you've typed response, but let's say someone figures out a way to use your voice as the response. What are you?
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on this one, man.
Fair enough. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't really have a game plan for this. I just wanted to hear some phrases and give the
I
folks.
do have isms, like LJ isms, like I like to say, yeah, baby.
Yeah, see that.
Come
and
on
that,
now.
that made its way. I think I
Yeah.
told you a couple weeks ago. That has influenced me.
Yeah.
It is in my vernacular, and I think it catches people off because if people saw you and I on the street, they could tell we're not the same guy.
That's true.
And so when they hear me go, yeah, baby, they're like, what did you just say? Like, why did you say that?
It needs to catch on. I like to say boom or boom, baby. I used to say buckets all the time. Buckets went around for a little bit. Kurt Prater, our worship guy, he used to say buckets. He might still say buckets. Yeah. Listen for it.
Yeah. I also like it when you've said this a couple of times, and it harkens back to kind of some Denzel, kind of Washington, but when he says, my man.
My man.
Yes. I think if I could, I would probably record your voice as a unique ringtone so that anytime you call me, it says, hey, Chad, my man. And then it's going to be like, I'm excited to talk to LJ. I don't care what it is he's got to tell me.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm in a good mood.
Can I tell you a funny story? My voice changed when I was really young, like before everybody else's. And when I was 11 years old, I left a voicemail for my friend Greg, and he saved it on his voice machine for me to hear, and it like rattled his machine, right? Well, no joke. I'm in my hometown a few years ago, and he's like, hey, man, you got to come inside my mom's house and check this out. He gets out this old machine and plays the voicemail. It's me still. He saved that thing for years. For over 20 years. He probably still has it.
That's awesome.
Cracks me up.
That is awesome. All right. Well, you came here today to jump into the text, to get into the Word of God, and that's what we're here to do. So excited. We are in the Gospel of Mark, so we're going to take and read. Actually, we're launching into the beginning of chapter 5.
Okay.
Is where we're at. And to kind of give you, over the last several episodes, we have navigated through the parables that appear in Mark and looked at the kind of unique aspect of those parables, this kind of crazy way in which Jesus utilized that teaching method to conceal and reveal simultaneously the truth about who he was. Okay. And specifically, parables being about the kingdom of God. Because in the Gospel of Mark, we know that's the agenda. When he starts out in Mark chapter 1:14, saying that he went about preaching the gospel, proclaiming the kingdom of God is at hand, repent and believe. And that as he taught as one with authority, and that was recognized, he healed and did all kinds of other things, demonstrating the authority of the kingdom. That was true as well in the parables, that he was confronting some things. Another thing that has kind of developed over the last few episodes is this, as I've wrestled through with different guests, this idea of when we attend to the Bible, there is a tendency that we will have in the modern context to right away find out, why is this significant to me?
Yeah.
And we do that sometimes, and we jump over what is the meaning of the text intended by the author, and like in real time, what did this mean to that original receiving audience? Like those people present at these events or hearing this teaching, why was this powerful them? What was the significance for them? Or what? And so in lies the true meaning of that text. Then we can start to wrestle with how do we experience that meaning today? Because that's where it's significant. So those are some things that we've really started to see develop. So as we attend to the Word today, those are some cool things to keep in mind.
Okay.
All right, so let's take a look. We're opening up to Mark chapter 5. Ooh, this is a good one. This is a good one. This is perfect.
Right here at the beginning of Mark 5?
Mark 5, right there.
Oh, buddy. I had no idea what we're going to talk about today.
I know,
This is going to be a good time.
This is going to be exciting. So again, if you're tuning in for the first time, or this is the first time you've gotten to experience the Take and Read podcast with LJ, His particular role in our church, so he and I are on staff together, and in our church family, he leads us in the area of kids ministry. So he gets to wrestle every week, week in, week out, with biblical truth and how he can help the youngest of our family, our kiddos, wrestle with that and experience that, and also gets to walk with parents and families as they're also trying to figure that out. So the passage, as you'll see in a minute today, this is exciting for someone like him to kind of help us.
Oh, it's going to be difficult.
So here's what I'm going to do, because normally I read the text.
Yeah.
But today I feel like I want to kind of hand off the reading of the text to LJ, just because then I also get to experience the beauty of your voice.
You're going to have people falling asleep listening to the podcast, man. Hey, how far are we going?
We're going to go through 20. So we'll do that kind of pericope, 1 through 20.
Got it. You ready?
Let's do it.
Here we go, starting in verse 1. They came to the other side of the sea, to the region of the Gerasenes. As soon as he got out of the boat, a man with an unclean spirit came out of the tombs and met him. He lived in the tombs, and no one was able to restrain him any more, not even with a chain, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains, but had torn the chains apart and smashed the shackles. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was also crying out and cutting himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and knelt down before him, and he cried out with a loud voice, "What do you have to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you before God, don't torment me." For he had told him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." "What is your name?" he asked him. "My name is Legion," he answered him, "because we are many." And he begged him earnestly not to send them out of the region. A large herd of pigs was there, feeding on the hillside. The demons begged him, "Send us to the pigs so that we may enter them." So he gave them permission, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs. The herd of about 2,000 rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned there. The men who tended them ran off and reported it to the town and the countryside, and people went to see what had happened. They came to Jesus and saw the man who had been demon-possessed sitting there, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it described to them what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs. Then they began to beg him to leave their region. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged him earnestly that he might remain with him. Jesus did not let him, but told him, "Go home to your own people and report to them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." So he went out and he began to proclaim in the Decapolis
That's it.
how much Jesus had done for him, and they were all amazed.
All right. That's a pretty intense episode.
It's a serious scene.
Yeah, in the life and ministry of Jesus. But I'm so glad we have it for our, observation.
Yeah.
So what we first do when we approach a text here, we look at, okay, what is this saying? What are some things that stick out, that just so that we understand the full kind of picture we're looking at? Are there some areas that are hazy or need clarity? And so, as you were reading, one of the things I thought about, okay, it's important. Mark has indicated they're in a different region.
Mm-hmm.
So they've crossed the sea,
mm-hmm.
and now they're in the region of the Gerasenes. And from what I understand about that region, in terms of it's still in the area of, it's still near Jerusalem, in that region, that part of the world, right?
Yeah.
So it's still in that neck of the woods, but it is a region that is primarily Gentile
Okay.
within that region. So up until now, Jesus has been teaching and preaching and performing miracles largely in a Jewish context.
Yeah.
This, however, as he crosses the sea, he enters into a place that is not primarily Jewish, but actually different. It's primarily not Jewish. It's Gentile. So it's
Okay.
not God's chosen people. There's a whole different story that they have that they understand about their existence. And I mean, so two completely different worldviews
Yeah.
at that point. And so it's interesting that up until this point, even interactions with the demonic have been in a Jewish context. This, however, is different.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that God is somehow different. It
Yeah.
just means how he interacts and what he does that may give some insight into why things are different. So that's one thing to note. The region's different. The characters at play here, we have Jesus. We have a demon-possessed man that is living out in these kind of tombs out in the middle of, not in the city,
Yeah.
but just kind of out.
He's a danger.
He's a dangerous guy. He's out by himself. He's got like superhuman strength.
They can't hold him back with chains, man.
He's busting chains and shackles off his feet and hands. He's busting chains, and he's a danger. That's a good way to put it. He's there obviously with his disciples. He's not like alone, because we know just in that passing that he's traveling with his crew. And so there's a couple of things, I think at play here. You have this interaction that Jesus has with the demon-possessed man, and then there's the interaction with the legion, the multitude of demons.
Yeah.
So he's interacting with two parties here.
The man.
Yeah, the natural and the supernatural. That there's this engagement. So that's interesting. You have...
I think something interesting that I see is there's this chaos going on around this man that's possessed. It's clear that something's off about him. He's a dangerous guy. Says he's been cutting himself and crying out, cutting himself with stones.
Right.
And then when Jesus shows up, it's like he immediately goes to Jesus. And it says in verse 6, when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and knelt down before him.
Right.
Like, there's this sense of peace that comes even with just the presence of Jesus. It's interesting to me.
Yeah, and I think that it makes me wrestle with what does that indicate, and what do the people watching that scene, what do they see? Because right now what we can understand is it's Jesus, his disciples, and this guy. Because this guy, there's not like a crowd around him. He's out there because everyone's scared of him.
Yeah.
So we have Jesus, the demon-possessed man, the disciples, and the demons. And this demon-possessed man is being controlled by the demons. So the behavior that when he sees, he runs and he kneels before Jesus, that's the activity of the demons because they possess him.
Yeah.
And if I'm a disciple and I'm like, because they were on the sea right before this, they watched him sleeping in the stern of the boat as this storm is, they're afraid for their life.
Yeah.
Water's rushing over the edge of the boat. And then they're like, wake up. Like, aren't you concerned that we're about to die here? And he just speaks to the storm, the wind and the water, it all calms. And they walk away from that, or they leave that incident going, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Even the wind, even the water obeys him. They get off the boat. There's this crazy dude traipsing around that no one's going to be around, that's got superhuman strength. And yet that guy sees Jesus, runs to him, and submits to him.
Yeah.
And starts to beg for mercy.
Yeah.
What? If I'm a disciple, I'm like, okay.
Yeah. What's going on?
What is going on here? What's happening? He cried out with a loud voice, "What do you have to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God, I beg you before God, don't torment me. This demon, he's like, please, like, I gotta
He
cut this.
knows.
Yeah, he's like, I gotta cut this off of the past.
Yeah,
Maybe he'll have mercy on me.
Yeah.
Which is interesting too, because it in a moment it indicates what some of the character of God. Because if you step back and think beyond the human experience, that before all of this was created,
Yeah.
the angels existed, that God had created the angels, and that we know that a portion of those angels fell and became demons. And that there is something indicated here about the character of God, that a demon would appeal to God the Father through the Son and ask for mercy, which indicates they must have some idea that he does exercise mercy.
Yeah.
And that he is gracious, which is fascinating. Like,
it's mind-blowing. And then that they recognize that this man has that authority, that Jesus is God.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. I'm right now, I'm wondering the disciples, the revelation that they've had to this point, like you said, coming off the sea, knowing that Jesus has some special authority, that he's powerful, and now seeing this, well, the demons are recognizing who Jesus is and they're calling it out. I wonder how that compares to the way that the disciples view Jesus at this point.
Yeah. And you don't know, are the demons responding to just something that they recognize and know immediately because of his presence or appearance? Or are they responding that way because there's kind of a reputation in the demonic community now that he's been doing some stuff, and they're like, hey, the Son of God is on the move, and they're like, okay, he's shown up? Because we don't know that they saw the whole storm incident.
Yeah.
We don't know that they witnessed any of the feeding of the, we don't know that. He sees him and they're like, submit, run, kneel, beg for mercy, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
So, what else do we see here? Then, okay. So there's the scene where he begs for mercy. Please, don't torment. Even though maybe they know that's their due, right?
Yeah.
Hey, we know that you'd be within your rights.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's like
Please
they
don't
know
do
that's
that.
what's next.
Yeah, they know we've been up to no good.
Yeah.
You're about to lay the smack down. Please don't.
Yeah.
He asks them about the name, which is interesting. I don't know if there was something about like exorcisms where there's an authority that's when you know somebody's name and call them by name, if there's some sense of authority that's associated with that. We know that names are a big deal.
Yeah.
All throughout the scripture, that Adam naming the animals was an exercise of his authority over the animals. So I don't know if possessing somebody's name and using that I don't know, but he asked for their name.
His name is Legion.
Legion meaning a
There's
lot.
many.
Yeah.
Which is like, this guy's not just possessed, like he's possessed.
Yeah, buddy.
It's over the top.
And so he begs him earnestly not to send them out of the region. Like, I don't know if there's something like there's a stronghold or there's a safety that they have in this kind of region that's primarily Gentile, but they don't want to leave the region for some reason. And so a large herd of pigs was there. This is just so fascinating to me. And
this part, when I was a kid, like, I didn't grow up in church, but I remember reading this story maybe at like my great grandparents' church or something. Like I vividly remember this story from being a kid, and it always scared me. Like it freaked me out. This part that we're coming up on.
Yeah. And it's an interesting indication that this is a Gentile region, because in a Jewish region, you wouldn't have pig herders.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because it's an unclean animal. No one's raising pigs. No one's sacrificing pigs. No one's eating pigs. So in a Jewish region, that's not a thing. But here in a Gentile region, you've got a pig herder. There's a large herd of pigs, and there's some oversight given because there's some herders there, some people working the herd.
Yep.
And they're feeding on the hillside, and the demons begged him, send us to the pigs so that we may enter them. And I don't know if that's some indication. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on how the demonic works, but there's some indication that they need a host or they want to dwell somewhere. So send us into the pigs.
There's a whole bunch of living things over there. There's a whole bunch of us. Just send us to them.
We won't bother this guy anymore. Please don't destroy us. Don't torment us. So that's what happens. He gave them permission. That's fascinating to me too. Like they're please can we, and they're gonna wait until he's like, you may go.
Yeah.
Like that's the level of authority. Not that they like jumped and asked for permission. Like, please can we? They wait for permission and then they're allowed to go. So even their ability to move about.
Yeah.
It's if he wills it.
Yeah.
So they leave. And they entered the pigs, and a herd of about 2,000.
2,000.
That's a lot of...
That's gross.
That is a lot of pigs.
That's a lot of pigs.
That must be a lot of demons.
Man.
Rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned there. And so then, like, okay, well, where'd they go then? Like, the pigs are dead. So we don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, did Jesus just play a trick on them?
Right.
I always thought that as a kid. It's like, I'm not going to torment you, but I'll let you go into the pigs. But you may not know this, but the pigs are going to run off the cliff.
And they're going to die.
And they're going to die.
And I don't know if that means the demons are gone too.
I don't know either.
Or do they just find maybe they went into the fish. I don't know. We
Who
got
knows?
nothing. Anyway, so you've got that whole scene. So this is the interaction then with demons.
Yeah.
And that interaction Jesus has with the demons, the legion, is over. And it demonstrates quite a bit who he is, what he's capable of, that now it's not humans recognizing his authority or his identity. It's the demonic. And what they recognize about his authority has the influence on them that they are now completely submissive in every possible way to him. And they don't need to know a lot about him. It was when they first make sight of him, they understand their place in the world.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating. Because we humans are different.
We're a little different. Yeah.
So then, after this, the men who tended the pigs ran off and reported in the town on the countryside, and people went to see what had happened. So now there's another thing happening. And they came to Jesus and saw the man who had been demon-possessed sitting there, dressed and in his right mind. So now there's the witness of Jesus' authority and its effect.
Yeah. No question about it.
No, yeah, undeniable what has occurred. Because they all clearly know who he is, this man, and that he's now in his right mind. He's sane. Who once was absolutely, unquestionably insane and dangerous to everyone around him, probably himself too, is now squared away. Okay.
Just hanging out.
Yeah. But yet, they were afraid at this point still, not necessarily of the man, but of the man.
Rightfully so.
Right? So these people, most likely largely Gentile people, are going, okay. So the disciples were afraid on the boat because of what Jesus did. It says they were terrified of the storm at first, but now they were afraid because of who they were with.
Yeah.
Now we have a scene where these Gentiles are afraid of the demon-possessed man at first, but now they're afraid of who's here.
Yeah.
So in both cases, we have this transfer of fear from something that is not to be feared ultimately to something that absolutely is rightfully to be feared.
I mean, to experience. So you clearly see it. This this guy's been messed up. All of a sudden, he's not. The person responsible for it's there. You're like, if he can do that, what
Right.
else can he do? I'm
Yeah.
going to show respect. I'm going to be careful. I'm going to be a little scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a moment of sobriety where you all of a sudden, what you thought you knew about the world and how things worked has now just been absolutely shattered, and there's a new normal.
Yeah.
There's now a new standard of what could happen and who's present.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to that in terms of, okay, that's what the disciples are experiencing. That's what these townspeople who are coming out to witness what has happened. For them, there's this realization that with Jesus, whatever you thought was possible and was normal and was right, true, and good before is now completely different because he is unlike anything you've ever realized. And so we can then start to jump into, how do we experience that meaning today?
Yeah. I mean, I think, if you lived anywhere in that region and you heard about these things happening and you had somebody that you thought might be demon possessed,
Yeah.
I know where I'm taking them.
Yeah, buddy.
No doubt.
Yep.
I want to find this guy named Jesus. If he's got authority to do that, he can help me in my need.
And you see that that's probably the case as these crowds are gathering around him. A lot of it probably has to do with the reputation of what he's capable of doing, not necessarily who he is at first. Yeah. It's, hey, I heard he healed this guy. I heard he released this guy from this oppression. I heard he can. Did you hear what he did with all that, the bread and the loaves? Like, he can do things, which is a demonstration, and that's the result of his authority and life in his kingdom, right? Yeah. He restores life. But there's a transition that I think that happens for people once they do encounter him because of who he is and now a connection to him. It's not just about what they can get from him, but that they get him.
They get him. That's crazy.
Yeah.
In such a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. Pastor John Piper, he wrote a book a few years ago, and it's the title of the book is God is the Gospel. And what he is identifying in that is throughout the scriptures, really the good news of Jesus Christ is that we get God, that we are restored to him, not that we get the things from him, but that we now have access to the God of the universe, whereas before we did not because of our sin.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right, so another thing that I think sticks out here, and we've seen this a couple of times, and it's been referenced as the messianic secret amongst theologians, this idea that in the Gospels there are these moments where people recognize who Jesus is, and he tells them, go and tell no one.
Yeah. Be
quiet about it. And so there's a lot of speculation. Why is he saying don't? Some people say, well, there was a perfect timing, and if it couldn't happen too soon, it couldn't happen too late, it had to hit the right time. Others identify that the reason why he was so hush-hush about it, because if people actually knew who he was, he wouldn't have been crucified.
Yeah.
If the Jewish people would have really known, and the Jewish authorities known that the Messiah was actually there, he never would have been crucified, and therefore wouldn't have accomplished what God the Father sent him to do.
Yeah.
But that secret isn't here.
It's not.
Because
it's the opposite.
Yeah. So what does he tell him? Man was getting into the boat. As Jesus was getting back into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed, verse 18, begged him earnestly that he might remain with him. And Jesus did not let him, but told him, go home to your own people and report to them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you. So he went out and began to proclaim in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him. They were all amazed. So he becomes a very early evangelist for the good news of Jesus Christ. And it's likely he is not Jewish.
Yeah.
It's likely he's Gentile.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that plays into this, that was now a safe region for this news to go out. I don't know. Any thoughts about that?
It's something about timing going on as well. Like you said, he kept revealed his full identity for a while, or certainly to specific people.
Yeah.
Yet to others he did not. And so I'm thinking somewhere along the way it has to do with some timing, because he's got some other things in his ministry that he's going to accomplish along the way as
Right.
he continues to fulfill prophecy. But I also think when we think about the kingdom of God or the kingdom of heaven, like it's not just for Israel. Israel's meant to be a blessing for everyone.
For the nations, yeah.
And I think this is a sign of that. Like if this guy is a Gentile, people when they see him are going to know something's different. And then when he gives testimony to what happened, it's going to clue them in on, make them interested in this Jewish guy that they've been hearing about even more. So there's something at play there with timing, and then the love of God, the gospel going beyond just Jews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we understand what it says. As you step back, if you were to kind of identify maybe with some broad kind of ideas here, what does this mean for them, and then the significance for us?
Yeah. I want to go back to what first happens at the beginning of the story, this recognition of authority, this pause, even from the man that was possessed, of, oh, like this guy has power.
Right.
So something about his authority, and then what you said of once you experience something like that, it changes the way you see everything. And so if I put myself under God and his authority, it's going to affect naturally how I view the world, how I live in the world. So something about authority. What type of power does Jesus have? How does that affect me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm in that same place, that I think the disciples, they're repeatedly surprised by Jesus's authority and his identity. Like when he does something, they're like, "Oh, okay," and we see that, and I don't look back on that and go, "Man, how could they be so surprised so often, so frequently?" Because in the same way that, man, they just would return to the old normal and the old assumptions about the universe and the world and their life and their place in all of that. I do that all the time. And I'm a pastor. I've been walking with the Lord for like 25 years.
Yeah.
And I'm still surprised by God when certain things happen in my life, and all of a sudden he reminds me of his presence and his power or his plan. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And it's so easy for me to slip back into the old kind of way of just assuming the world works this way. And quite honestly, it's this kind of so often living and moving with not the assumption, but just as though what I see is the limit to what's real.
Yeah.
What I experience is the limit to what's real. And that humanity is got a lot of control in this place. Like those are the general assumptions that I tend to revert back to. And this is just a great reminder that, man, I've constantly lean into the reality that no, God's present, and he has intention and a plan, and not be surprised by him as much.
Yeah.
And almost expectant for God to show up, God to be present. And I'm just, Yeah, just reminded of that today.
Yeah. I think another thing for me is I think about people that come from dark places. You know, I think there's this idea about God that exists that he is very loving and warm, which is absolutely true. And we want that comfort from God. But for a lot of people walking in dark places, more than the comfort of God, they need God's power in their lives to overcome that darkness, right? And so when I read this story, if I'm in a dark place, I'm going, no, like God has authority over these types of things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, this life that someone may find themselves in, asking like, God, is this what you have for me? Well, he probably has a lot more if you'll come under his authority and you'll have victory over those things.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, that he has a lot more. He's not just going to deal with whatever issues present, but he's got so much more for you as you're under his authority.
Yeah.
And it's an authority that it's refreshing in this passage that the demons recognize.
Yeah.
The powers of darkness immediately submit to him. That's, man, I want to be on that team.
For sure.
Because right here, they recognize it. And if the demonic realm is so quick to recognize and submit and appeal to God's mercy, that means he is merciful.
That's right.
And he is completely powerful. And so we've been invited into that same thing through Jesus, the Son of the Most High God. And so another encouragement would be, if you're listening to this podcast, you're tuning in and you're checking us out, what LJ and I believe wholeheartedly is that this is true. We believe that this passage and all of the passages that we are reading are true accounts of Jesus of Nazareth, who demonstrated clearly time and time again that he is not like any other human, but that he is the Son of God. He is God in the flesh who came for a very specific purpose, and that is to restore creation and restore us to him. And if you've been kind of wrestling with that, I encourage you to continue to wrestle, but realize there's no place you can go that is a greater comfort than into the arms of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And to live under his authority. There's a lot of ways in which people portray his authority as oppressive, that is demanding, but he tells us and promises that his yoke is light. And his burden is light, and that under his authority you will experience flourishing in life like you never have before. And so my encouragement to you today is to turn to him and to continue to take and read from the Word of God, because he's communicated himself to us. LJ, so glad you're here. And we're already excited about the next time you're going to be here. I'm also excited if anybody uses some of the sound bites.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. So please, if you have questions for myself or LJ, you can email at takeandreadpodcast@gmail.com. If you're going to use his sound bites, please leave it in the comments. Let us know. Like, subscribe, share. But I want to know how many people are going to, take advantage of LJ's God-given voice today.
And next time, if you want to have like a list of things that I can say for you or people, I'm down with that.
Yes, and if you have things that you would like to hear LJ say, keep them clean, obviously. But
royalty free.
Yeah, royalty free. You can grab sound bites from LJ.
Oh my goodness.
Just let us know what you want him to say. But thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being here, LJ. Love you, man. And go, take, and read.